This is Wyatt from Liquor Planet, and you're listening to the Left Coast Leafs podcast. I fucked that one up.
Episode 79 of the Left Coast Leafs podcast. I'm Sean Orr, joined by my good buddy Trevor Bass. The end of a decade pod.
I know. Can you believe it? It doesn't even feel like a decade.
Well, I've read articles how when you get older, time becomes shorter because your sense of a decade is much different than my sense because you've been on the planet longer.
I have.
Alive longer.
Yeah, I've had.
So, like,
I ruined it, apparently.
Oh, you've ruined it?
Apparently, I ruined the planet.
But with your toxic behavior online?
Yeah, I mean, so many trips to the landfill. I'm actually toxic online behavior. Yeah, my toxic online behavior has actually ruined the ozone layer. That's how toxic I am. And it's only been 2 years. So I can imagine if I'd started this like when podcasting started.
You could have like a million followers on Facebook or Instagram.
I know.
Right now.
I've stopped making New Year's resolutions because of my age, because I just do stuff right all the time. Like I just do it right every day because I don't have many more New Year's to like reboot, right?
You sound like Babcock now.
I meant to. I do it right every day. Him and I are we're the same age from the same province. Like, you know, we do have some connective tissue.
You could be Eskimo brothers.
We're both Rough Rider fans.
Fair enough.
So those who are wondering why we sound different.
The Eskies are Edmonton, right?
Yes. I see you're a big CFL fan.
Yes.
And the Argos, they're from Hamilton.
But aren't the Rough Riders from Ottawa as well?
They used to be, and I wish they still were because I thought that was such a neat, quirky sports Canadian thing.
How two teams of an 8-team league had the same name.
Yeah. But one was a compound word and one was 2 words.
All right, let's just digress.
There's a difference. So you're in Ontario watching the World Juniors as we speak.
Possibly the worst Team Canada game in a long time.
Yeah, hey. Yeah, we won't dwell on that for too long because I mean, we're bearing the lead here. You have a beer from an Ontario craft brewery.
I do. My parents' friend's son, he owns a brewery. And he's donated some beers to the pod. It's called a Broadhead Brewery, and he has given me a Blueprint Blueberry Blonde.
Whoa.
So the Broadhead Blueberry Infusion process. Step 1, summon a ninja. Step 2, ninja the blueberry. Step 3, extract the awesomeness.
I love that. That's good.
Yes.
Shout out to RJ Broadhead.
And then it actually has some pretty cool brew notes on the side. I'll send you some pictures.
Yeah, do that.
Because I know you like to post that stuff.
Absolutely.
So the brew notes it's a golden blonde color. It's a awesome, gnarly, radical punch wallop of blueberry flavors. It is a tall boy with a 5% alcohol. Gonna crack right into this now.
Nice. So this is episode 79, and there's no Leafs 79. So I pulled up 1979, and back then you could make the playoffs one game over 500.
Really?
Yeah. So they were, I think there were 34, 33, and 13. It was those 13 ties that really got them in. And then they beat the Atlanta.
This is a nice beer.
Is it?
It's such an interesting taste. I've never had a blueberry beer before.
I've had a couple blueberries around the house here. It's nice. It's a nice little compliment.
And it's also touching because it's blue for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
That's great. So do you have a tall can or you got a bomber?
Tall can.
Nice.
Bombers aren't too popular. I don't see them much in Ontario.
They're phasing bombers out, just the industry in general, I think. Just the bottling. I think we talked about it before, just the expense of the bottling process versus canning. Yeah. So So then you're gonna enjoy that beer. I don't have a beer on my end because it's I don't know, it's the morning. It's noon, and I drank enough beer
Has
this
that
week.
stopped you before?
Well, no, we have had morning pods before, but I have a coffee. I was gonna soda stream my coffee this morning, but I chickened out.
What's SodaStream?
That's that pump thing that adds carbonation to your water.
Okay.
Yeah, we got one, and I was going to see if it affected my coffee, but I didn't want to ruin the machine.
Fair.
Yeah. So we have a little special look back on the decade in our second segment today. But first of all, kind of the news of the day of the end of the year here is what happened in New Jersey to Ilya Mikheyev last night.
Devastating injury, and like I couldn't really tell it because it didn't show a replay or show the ice surface, but
Yeah.
they kept saying there's a pool of blood, and it took a little bit to clean it up, but that's a significant injury. Like they said, minimum 90 days, and then we're gonna reassess the injury.
Yeah.
So like we're talking, he won't be back till the playoffs at the absolute earliest.
Best case scenario, yeah, because
Yeah.
a reassessment at 3 months, not healed at 3 months. It's funny because our podcast friend Grace, who we met in town here a month ago, she was at the game.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she was at the Ranger game, and then she was at this game, and she was sitting in the lower bowl at that end, and she said. She sent me a WhatsApp picture. I'll send it to you. It's just a picture of the ice. She's saying, I missed what happened to Mikheyev. And she had like blood circled in the picture. And
Wow.
yeah, so I'll send you that. I'll send you that photo. But pretty. I mean, like, talk about found money. Like that guy was he fit in everywhere they played him. Like,
Yep.
I was like, now that they're on the right track, like I was super pumped to see what this guy was going to be like down the stretch and in the playoffs, because he didn't seem like a guy who was going to wilt under pressure. He has one of those really just consistent games.
Now, like with this injury, is the such the long recovery? Is that based off of like having it be completely healed for infection, or is it the actual tendons having to reconnect?
Yeah, it's the connecting of the tendons, and then if there's obviously nerves in play too, and those take a really long time. Like he could be fully healed and still have numbness in his fingers when this is all done, and I'm sure it's the nerve damage that they're probably going to reassess. Like they can the tendon is predictable. They did the surgery, they reattached them, maybe borrowed some tissue from another part of the body to reconnect those tendons, and I think it's probably nerve and mobility and feeling that they have to reassess once that's all done. So
like it seemed like the severity of this, like it was a life and death scenario last night for him if it wasn't immediately addressed. Safe to say.
Yeah, like he bolted. He knew, like he dropped his other glove and bolted straight for the tunnel. Like he knew, he must have been just gushing.
Yeah,
and then both teams' medical staffs became involved immediately. And probably like just got a tourniquet on the probably tied something really tight around the forearm, stopped the bleeding, and just got him straight to the hospital. Man, poor guy. Like he's over here. Like we all know his story. He doesn't know any English. Yep. He's here with his wife and baby. Is that or just wife?
I believe it's just his wife, and I read an article that's helped him feel like normal. He hasn't felt homesick because his wife has really helped him out. So, looking at the hockey side of this now.
Yeah.
You're Kyle Dubas. You're sitting there. Mikheyev has looked great. He's played well. What do you now do with a contract down the line? Do you look at signing him now, or do you want to wait to see what the injury now is? Because could this injury be a long term? He won't be the same player that we're accustomed to now.
I think that's part of it now. That's the assessment that has to be done now. I mean, this could be career ending. It's I believe it's his top hand, so that might not be as devastating. So that that might be his saving grace, because if that's your bottom hand, but absolutely, I mean, I don't think that he gets a contract gets looked at now, and until he's 100% healed and they know what they have there.
So, like, if you were Dubas, would you do like a 2x1 type scenario, or is it even to the sense of, do you even want to sign him to a contract until you know the extent of what we're dealing with?
I would probably just sign him to like another 1x1, a completely variable contract, just to see what it's all about.
Because to be honest, like he was heading towards a potential Kapanen Johnson type contract.
He totally was, which we couldn't afford.
No.
And then, I mean, somebody would have to go. A Kapanen or a Johnson would have to go, right?
And I would rate him ahead of those two right now.
He was up the lineup. Like, I don't think Johnson coming back was going to unseat him from the top 6.
And now with this injury, we will never see the full complement of this roster of what it was supposed to be this season. We're not going to see that now.
I saw a tweet from maybe Myrtle or Stiegel that the Leafs haven't had a full complement of forwards in the lineup for one game yet this year.
Yeah, now we won't for the entire year.
No, we won't. No. And I mean,
which is crazy.
If you consider Mikheyev a top 6 forward, and he's just he's new. I mean, we will see Nylander, Marner, Tavares, Matthews, Johnson, Kapanen. That was kind of our original top 6 coming into the year.
Hyman.
Yeah, not Kapanen. So we will kind of see what was intended to be our original top 6. But like, I think our saving grace this season and since Dubas, or since Keefe took over, has been this newfound forward depth, especially in Engvall and Mikheyev.
Well, the Mikheyev has been. I thought he's looked really good with Tavares.
Yeah,
Tavares has been playing like phenomenal since the Sheldon Keefe era. Like, Tavares has gone back to his, like, what we're expecting of him.
Yeah.
So not quite washed up yet. So we have maybe have a few years
I'll
left.
give him another year, but no. And Mikheyev he's just so likable. Like, I really feel bad for the person, right? Like, he got to this point, and now it's a big setback. Like, this rehab's going to be totally lonely. Like, I know that players typically, when you're rehabbing an injury, you're kind of away from the team, that sort of thing. And Hyman even talked about it a bit. I wouldn't doubt if, as an organization, they just really they don't exile him to some sort of distance from the team for this. I think he gets like probably full access to the guys and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah,
like
when they brought Marner on the trip when Keefe came in. Remember that similar treatment.
Yeah, exactly. Because the injury almost gives them the inside track to actually re-sign him, where it might have been an unknown before. So they got to treat him right, and they will. They're not stupid. Like, they know what time it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the emotion, like the personal side, you feel terrible for him, but then on the hockey side, we have that depth there. We've talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you plug and play. You next man up, and you just keep going.
That next man up philosophy, it just didn't seem to exist under Babcock. Everything seemed to be so conditional, but it does feel like just a next man up now, doesn't it?
It is. That's what it is here.
Yeah.
Okay, do you plug Engvall on the second line now with Tavares, or even though Engvall has looked great with Kerfoot Kapanen, you keep him there? Like, there's so many like what happens when Andreas Johnston comes back? Like, he'll be coming back soon.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many scenarios here at play. Do you move Marner back to Tavares and put Andreas Johnston on the top line with Matthews and Hyman? Like, there's so many. Like, plug and play scenarios here, and Keith has shown like the lines don't mean anything. Line combos are absolutely meaningless. Like, it can change shift to shift, which I like.
Absolutely. And you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of Pittsburgh. And you have your cornerstones in Malkin and Crosby. So we have our Tavares, Matthews, Marner, Nylander, And then you bring in your Pascal Dupuis, you bring in your Brandon Rusts, you play those other guys 24 minutes a game because that's what they're fucking there for, right?
Yeah.
It's not
exactly.
it's not limiting the minutes for some arbitrary reason because you're Mike Babcock. It's like that was just so ridiculous. And so, yeah, I mean, this is the way it is now. These guys are expected to, and they have been, like every win they've had recently, there's been some real rodeos, but the common denominator is our big guys are carrying the load, right?
Yeah, leading into Babcock, getting into our coaches discussion here.
Yes,
you pulled some stats, and it's going to be interesting because we're going to end the decade, and Sheldon Keefe will have the best regular season winning percentage for the Leafs, and the best playoff winning percentage for the Leafs because he hasn't played a playoff game yet. And Babcock and Carlisle were in the negative.
Yes, exactly. So this is our Leaf coaches of the decade. And I don't know if we're just going to rank them or just laugh about them or what.
When you told me the idea, I'm like, holy fuck, this is like just talking about futility. Like this is this is a somber moment here.
But you know what's super predictable though is if you're recapping the best and worst Leaf moments of the decade, it's not even close for me anyways. Like worst moment was 2013.
Yeah, the worst moment is 4-1 in Boston.
Yeah,
it's not even close.
And the best moment is probably winning the draft lottery.
100%.
Right. So that's a pretty short podcast.
Yeah.
So we're gonna just go through chronologically the coaches we had in the 2010s or whatever you call it. I'm so glad we're getting out of this first 20 years of this century because now we can just call it like in 10 years when we're doing this, we can say best Leaf moments of the 20s. And that just sounds right. That sounds right.
Instead of the 10s?
Yeah. Yeah. We're still going to be doing this in 10 years, right?
Will we be alive?
That's the question. You go. Yes. You will be. My money's on you. I've already willed all the gear to you. So so Ron Wilson kicked it off for us from June 2008 to March 2012.
You know what? For me, Ron Wilson is probably my least favorite coach of this decade.
Yeah.
Just because of his attitude, his negative, sarcastic approach.
Oh yeah.
It just rubbed me the wrong way, and it's like, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, it's just, and he wasn't my favorite coach. They never got over the hump with him. They were just an okay team.
He
could never make the playoffs.
Such a high horse, right? Like his regular season record was 130 and 135, and he'd never had a playoff game.
Was he with San Jose before coming to the Leafs?
Yeah, he was. Okay. He predated Todd McClellan and whoever else in San Jose. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was a prickly bugger, and he was such an obnoxious know-it-all. And then we got into another era, probably the biggest beauty of our coaches since Pat Quinn,
with Randy Carlisle.
Randy Carlisle, yeah, March 2012 to January 2015.
The thing with Randy was he was so old school, like just such an old school coach, and I think the type of team that he wanted, he was never given. Like I think he would want like players of today. He would just want a team full of Tom Wilsons and Roman Polacks.
But didn't he have Burke? Didn't he have Burke as a GM?
Yeah. He had Burke as the G. That's when they had McLaren and Orr on the fourth line, and they led the league in fights. And
that was the Boston.
Sitting MacArthur in a playoff series game to play McLaren. He was very old school. I didn't agree with his philosophy. I think it aligned well with Burke, with what Burke was wanting.
Yeah,
and it wasn't the right fit at the time for the fan base, because that was where it's like, we need to bottom out. We need to get a top line player. Like we're just like, Phil Kessel is not going to be that guy. Phil Kessel is a top 20 player in the league in his prime. won multiple cups, but he's not the guy. He's not Sid Crosby.
And it was such a negative environment.
Yeah.
It was a negative environment around, like, it was that the whole Muskoka Five, and there was Lupul in there, and there was Kessel and Phaneuf and Salute Gate, and then the 4-1 collapse, and just a lot of shit in that. He only coached
David Clarkson.
David Clarkson. He only coached 160 games in that period because there was that 148 game lockout shortened season. But that was. I mean, he's still coaching in the league. You know, and
is he?
Whoa, is he?
I don't think so.
Oh, you know, I'm thinking
he was coaching. He was coaching in Anaheim, but he was fired after last year.
That's right too. I lost track of that. I don't do much Anaheim stuff. But,
then moving into Carlisle's fired mid-season. They bring in Peter Horacek, and you know what can you say? A 9-28 record, like awful. But the team wasn't good. They were bottoming out, and it resulted in us getting Mitch Marner. So kudos to Peter Horacek.
Yeah, and that was the definition of a sacrificial lamb. That guy. Is he assistant coach in New Jersey right now?
I think he could be. I know he was pro scouting. He might be on the bench now, but he pretty much did just get. He was the sacrificial lamb, and we were in the running for Connor McDavid. Like if the lottery balls would have fell a certain way, we could have got him. But you know what? Mitch Marner can't complain, and it is what it is with Horacek.
Yeah. I don't even think there was an official announcement when Horacek was done that season. It was just known. It was known that he was not even in the running. He wasn't a candidate, and so that was that. Poor guy. He's probably really broken up about it too. He probably had his bags packed so early.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, and then the polarizing one. So much hope and promise on May 20th, 2015.
Mr. Mike Babcock
shunned the Buffalo Sabres for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And man, when he said there will be pain, he was not wrong.
You know what? Like, for everything that the issues that came up with Babcock, he did a lot for this organization. Like, he did a ton.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can like it ended negatively with how it all happened. But he did a ton for this organization. He brought credibility back. Yeah. He implemented a system where even though they were the underlying numbers were good, but they ended up losing. Get Austin Matthews. He took us back to multiple playoffs. Although we lost 3 straight playoffs, so like he didn't get done the playoffs, and I think it's showing now with the way that Kyle Dubas thinks the game should be played completely aligns with Sheldon Keefe, and this team is built for that game. And wow, like what can you say? And I think if Lou Lamoriello stayed on as the GM, I think Mike Babcock would probably still be the GM or the head coach of this team. Sorry,
I think so. I think so, and I think when you look back now on the Mike Babcock era, you take away all the the Mitch Marner thing and some of the psychological warfare that he played on players and that sort of thing. I think his biggest weakness as a coach, and it's been pointed out by players on other interviews and more candid podcasts like Spit and Chicklets, is that he's not good at player deployment.
No,
he gets ideas of guys, and he gets a really, really quick first impression of a guy, it seems, and then he rarely comes off that position.
A lot of the times, though, his positions are correct. A lot of the times, those assessments are he's good, but then when he's not, it shows, and people like to go against it because he's so confident in who he is as a person and as a coach that rubs people the wrong way. You blur the lines of confident versus cocky. You look at some of the examples of things that he's done, like the Mike Modano 1,499 career game. There's certain things where I think that rubs people the wrong way. But for other players crave that. They crave that structure, that hard-nosed approach.
Yeah.
And I just, for the way this team was built and for the personalities on this team, it just it wasn't the right mix. And clearly Sheldon Keefe was the right coach for this team.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, what I kind of meant with like player deployment and that sort of thing is like just when it came down to actually needing to do really, really specific things to win a game, he sometimes just didn't. He often didn't make the right choice, especially big games. I mean, he had 2 Game 7s. He had a Game 6 to close out a series. You know what I mean? And some of his decisions were lacking in minutes played for certain players and in sort of who he trusted, right?
Yeah, I think that's why I'm so excited leading into 2020 with Sheldon Keefe. Is like this team is now built. It fits his structure. It fits his what he thinks, and it's exciting to see.
Yeah.
And I know you don't want to rank them, but if I had to rank the coaches, I think it's unfair just given like Sheldon Keefe's only been here for not even 20 games yet.
No.
I would probably go Mike Babcock 1, Sheldon Keefe 2, Carlisle 3, Wilson 4, Horacek 5, and the Horacek is just you could probably not even include him on this list. The team was terrible. He was not good, and so it's unfair to him. But he had a chance, and they were not good.
I'd be the same. I would rank Babcock first. I mean his record was 173 and 133. I mean that's good. I mean and 50 of those losses were on purpose. Right, so it's they won hockey games. I like to think that they won hockey games just because of a lot of things that happened before he came along too. Like we got really fucking good players, right? And so that's paying off now as well.
But I think it's we may not get Austin Matthews with while studying that structure of what the team would be. I don't think Kadri becomes the player that he ended up being without Mike Babcock, and I don't think we signed John Tavares. I think we are not getting JT. So
he worked Riley. He worked with Riley a lot too.
Yeah, I think he took Kadri with all those potential off ice issues for him, and he made Kadri a back-to-back 30-goal guy, just a force.
Yeah, and he stood there and took a lot of bullets in the media, right? He stood up there every day, and he took bullets, and he didn't always give the answers that guys wanted, and but he said he was going to protect the players, and in that way he did. Behind the scenes, not a great fella. But he stood up there and took the media on for the players.
Yeah, with those power mind game tricks, I think when you hear about them after the fact, it's just one of those that doesn't sound good. It's just not right.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I just for fun, I went and I looked at comparing this decade to the previous decade. And we only had, if you exclude Ron Wilson, who overlapped 2 decades, our only 2 other coaches of the previous decade were Pat Quinn and Paul Maurice. Yeah.
No, I was just 2 great coaches.
So shout out to those coaches in that. Like that was a really stable. Although we didn't get a lot of results, that was a really stable coaching decade for us. And
early 2000s, though, we had 2 Eastern Conference final appearances. So
up until the lockout. Close. Yeah, we were right there. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So I know you didn't have a beer. You're having your non-soda water or whatever.
I'm on my 3rd cup of coffee. I got up this morning at 7 and played tennis.
This beer was quite good.
Was it?
Really enjoyed it. I'll send you some pictures. It's a nice blueberry taste. So I really enjoyed it. It wasn't strong. It's kind of more like a wheat beer with it being a blonde. So fantastic. I would give it a Hyman. I would give it a number 2.
Number 2, nice. Are you drinking it out of the can, or did you pour it into any sort of maple leaf cup?
I poured it into a Guinness glass.
Again, that's good. That's a good move.
Yes,
that's a good move.
Yeah, it's very nice.
And just previewing our first episode. I guess this will be our last episode of of 2019.
Yeah.
And so we'll be choosing our beer of the year. I sent you the list. We had 28,
You did.
including this one now, because this one's in contention. We had 29 beers from Liquor Planet this past year.
It's so hard to remember them though. Like it's difficult.
But you know what? I kind of said to Reg, because I sent you the list. Then I said I'm not going to make Sean make a choice until you come back and you can visually maybe look at the bombers and cans on the wall, because that might jog your memory a little bit, right? Like it might to actually see them and say, oh yeah, that one. I think I have mine already picked out, and I'll tell you another time. But that'll be a fun episode, and hopefully we can just keep talking about a winning streak here.
Yeah. All right.
So that wraps that up from London area.
Granton, Ontario.
What's the shout out for the area code?
519.
You're in the 5.
Yeah.
I'm in the 2. All right. So as this Canada game winds down, we'll sign off here, and we will see everybody in the new year.
Go Leafs, go.
Go Leafs, go.